weathergang.com. We're on Instagram, YouTube, X, Facebook, four social media channels. Tonight, I'm Camden Walker for capitalweathergang.com. We've got to talk about the heat this week, a prolonged heat wave. It's going to be not only uncomfortable, but unsafe maybe by the end of the week, end of the weekend. The heat turns excessive. So we need to start thinking ahead about heat safety. What do we do during a heat wave that is, a minimum standard of 3 or more days at or above 90 degrees? This one could last 7, 9, maybe even 10 days. We're just not sure yet at the end horizon time of these very warm temperatures. It's an intense heat wave. It builds slowly over the coming days, starting with humidity moving into night. And then we get those temperatures matching 90 or above in most locations tomorrow. And we need to think about, staying hydrated, wearing those light colored clothing, lightweight clothing, finding shade, air conditioning, checking on those who don't have air conditioning. Don't forget about your pets. And all of this is another great slide at heat.gov. Thanks for joining me. I'm Camden Walker for capitalweathergang.com. Miko, please send in your photos of sunsets tonight. And David, good evening. Thanks for joining on Facebook. And Miko from X. I've got a bunch of you on Instagram right now. SMB, Nicholas, Shardigan, thanks so much for tuning in. Also on YouTube, anytime you need us though, for capitalweathergang.com, we're there 24/7. This is our weekly Sunday Sunset Live Q&A. I'm Camden Walker, happy to speak with you every week for our 20-minute live Sunday Sunset chat. And let's see, we've got temperatures in this animation. This week, we're going to be really getting those at or above 90 degrees as soon as tomorrow. And our heat tracker, we're tracking below average for where we normally see 6 days at or above 90 degrees by now. We're going to quickly tack those on this week. I think the most intense part of the heat in the Friday to Monday timeframe as it looks now. So far, we might tie some records, but record breaking per se looks, if there's some good news, we don't have a very high confidence or a high likelihood right now of breaking our heat records just right now. Craig, indeed, great question. Craig Clark from Instagram. We do have drought concerns this week. Let's jump to that right now. A flash drought is possible, and that means a rapid onset of very dry conditions. We've already had above here in this map I explained in my PM update today at capitalweathergang.com. The silver lining, no drought currently exists in the region. However, there has been an expansion over the last week of abnormally dry conditions. So while not officially drought, we're setting the stage going into an excessive heat wave of 6 to 10 days perhaps of at or above 90 degrees. It's going to bake the soil very quickly. We'll have our strongest, highest sun angle of the year. All of our plant life is alive and trying to grow. So we have our highest evapotranspiration needs of the year. So the soil is going to be kind of sucked dry at times and baked dry from the sun above. And this excessive heat is going to mean that we turn very dry very quickly. So we could see some droughts onset very quickly this week. So please keep that in mind, gardeners and farmers. It is going to be very annoying and expensive at times. So just watch your crops, watch your gardens this week. We do have a rain deficit in the region. So over the last 30 days, far more places than not are seeing rainfall deficits in the last 30 days in the oranges, browns, darker oranges there. And very few locations are having experiencing wet conditions at or above 100% of rainfall over the last 30 days. John, so far days are not getting shorter for a few more days. We haven't hit the solstice just yet. Indeed, Chardeline, thanks for tuning in. The great comment. Days are not getting shorter just yet. Thanks for tuning in on Instagram. John can't rule out 100 degrees by Saturday this week. Sure, Friday through Monday look like the hottest potential time periods for this heat wave. And we've got drought as a concern that might be quickly developing this week. So rain chances are very low. Craig, another good question, but we could see a passing shower Monday, Tuesday as well. Fingers crossed. But let's look at the 7-day rainfall amounts. They are paltry at best. And the precipitation animation above showing you very few chances. And outside of the Shenandoah Valley and Blue Ridge area, that's where favored shower storm chances are this week, kind of assisted in their development by the mountains. As air is forced to move up, rise, condense into clouds of potential rain showers and storms over the Blue Ridge and Central Appalachians. But as you can see around DC, portions of Virginia, the center and eastern parts of Virginia, not looking good this week. Lack of precipitation combined with this excessive heat and prolonged heat wave, multiple days of heat, could really dry out the soils very quickly. So we're watching that for a rapid onset, quickly setting in drought situation this week. So please keep that in mind, gardeners and farmers. All right, John, let's talk about the tropics. That's a great point on Instagram. We don't have high hopes of seeing any of these two areas potentially develop this week from the National Hurricane Center here. So precipitation still kind of hard to get a positive spin into even next work week. This is the medium term outlook into next work week, and temperatures even are looking kind of warm, if not above average again. So we might have we're not sure when this heat wave will break. Early to midweek is the best guess. Early to mid next week is the best guess as it stands. Now we'll keep you posted, of course, at capitalweathergame.com as we get into this week and hopefully start seeing an end to this heat wave. It is here. Numbers, folks, look above. If you're more of a graphical person, look below, and you can see the potential for rising heat, intensifying heat this week. And dew points are going to start feeling humid as early as late tonight, if not into especially later parts of this week. That's when we could see the combination of temperatures and humidity creating heat index values. That's how it feels to our skin, where, sweat, if sweat can't evaporate, that's very important. We're going to start feeling very muggy and oppressive later this week with heat index values perhaps over 100 degrees, if not maybe 105 degrees. So let me find my dew point animation. Here's the dew point scale for you, the emoji scale that we use at the Washington Post. So muggy, gross. Hopefully, I think we're going to avoid the sultry, the worst of the worst, the oppressive and unbearable. That's kind of in the purple category with 70 or higher dew points. And that really doesn't have a high probability of happening until maybe the end of the week, into the weekend. But that's with time this week, we do potentially see heat index values, over 100, if not toward 105. Charlene, Char Daniel Green on Instagram. Pollen and all the allergens are low across the board. Hopefully, you saw that in my PM update yesterday, Saturday evening. But great question. Thanks for joining Millie and WF and Gwen. David and Dee, we have a lack of rain. We're in the center of that high pressure where there's sinking air to prevent a lot of clouds and storms and shower development for most of this week. That's why it's going to be sunny. We're going to be wanting clouds, but there's going to be very few clouds at times until maybe the end of the weekend. The weekend, hopefully, we can get rain chances back in here by the weekend. Yes, some stray showers, especially over the mountains, are possible Monday, Tuesday this week. And can't even rule out a passing shower storm in DC tomorrow, as I explained in my PM update. There is a little bit of instability at the mid and upper level portions of the atmosphere. But as far as gardeners and farmers are concerned, this is not enough rain. We'll be very lucky to see 10th to a quarter of inch of rain, but you can see kind of wrapping around that strong, hot, high pressure system that's sitting over Virginia, and it has another like cell with the Bermuda. It's called a Bermuda high because the one part of the high pressure system likes to sit near or over Bermuda. That's just going to be kind of a ring of fire of instability and showers and storms around us, but not directly in the Richmond, DC corridor for the most part this week. Fingers crossed. Saturday, Sunday, we can start seeing some more rain chances to not only water our gardeners and our crops, but to cool us off. So fingers crossed on that. And as we've been talking about, no drought to speak of right now, but we have a rainfall deficit for the last 30 days in much, if not nearly all of the region. This sets the stage, unfortunately, with the moderate chance for excessive heat, especially by the end of this week. We could have an orange shading there over portions of Indiana, Ohio, Virginia, Maryland, Delmarva Peninsula. That's where rapid onset drought could set in. That's just a quick realization of the soils being super dry. We could see a quick, sudden drought in the region. We're already abnormally dry, but we could see drought by the time you talk to me as soon as next Sunday for our weekly Sunday sunset chat. We could see some drought springing up in the region pretty quickly this week. All right, so let's see. And we had talked about the PM update here at the top. Make sure you check that out, capitalweathergang.com. Graphical forecast at a glance this week, heat safety graphic below. Check out more at heat.gov. And we'll keep other tips coming for you this week as we get more and more hot and humid toward especially the end of this week. So please practice heat safety on the job. For your pets, check on those who don't have access to air conditioning. Thank you so much. I'm Camden Walker for our weekly Sunday Sunset Chat from CapitalWeatherGang.com on all four of our social media channels: Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, and X. Thank you so much, Kara, for joining, Lindsay, H Squared, and uh, Guitarzon. We have the strongest sun of the year baking the soils. The most plant life is now abundantly into the middle of the growing season. So evapotranspiration needs are highest. And then you've got excessive heat moving in this week at or above 90 degrees, maybe near 100, 2 days or so. That's just a recipe for the needs far outweighing the provided rains. And unfortunately, despite maybe our deeper water table being okay, our topsoils are going to feel the crunch this week as plants are still trying to, realize their potential in the middle of growing season. The strongest sun of the year here near the summer solstice, high and strong sun, and our excessive heat with temperatures here at the surface for many, many days, potentially 6, 10 days of this heat. It is potentially going to really strain some of the region's topsoil. So please keep that in mind for a quickly potential onsetting of drought. All right. Yosher, Ruth, Lisa, Marie, thanks for tuning in. Rodney, I wish we could keep today's weather for the rest of the week. And I think, David, once we get this heat, this dome of strong high pressure, this hot high pressure breaking down maybe a little bit by this weekend, we can kind of get those rains that we saw spinning around the high pressure system. Hopefully those can move in by, this weekend a little bit into early next week. So we'll see. There's no major signal for a major shift yet. We're kind of looking toward the horizon early to midweek next week. Hopefully we can see a change. But as we've been looking at here, I think for the Climate Prediction Center showing next work week's temperatures with a decent confidence of being above average, and precipitation may be leaning above average in parts of the region, but it's not a very clear signal with high confidence. I'm not willing to say into next work week that we have a really good news with a pattern shift where we can kind of get less warm and more precipitation in the region. And even looking at the National Hurricane Center potential here, we don't see a major source of moisture coming in from either of these systems that may develop over the coming 7 days in the tropical Atlantic. All right, let's check in with our slideshow here of animating the graphics for temperatures here above. It is going to start as soon as tomorrow with 90 degrees or hotter. This could last 6, 10 days. It looks like it's going into the weekend, but does it maybe end early to midweek next week? We're not too sure yet. So we're going to be adding to our heat tracker. We'll keep track of these days for you at capitalweathergame.com here. I'm Cameron Walker for your weekly Sunday Sunset Chat on all four of our social media channels. So we're talking for 20 minutes every Sunday, and we're on Instagram, YouTube, X, and Facebook. Uh, let's see, we've got Captain, Daniel, and Claire tuning in, and H squared, ugh, indeed. Ugh, indeed, yes. And Ashley, good to see you tuning in. John, thanks so much. Happy Father's Day to you. And Catherine, appreciate you tuning in. And Paul, you could be steaming in Williamsburg next weekend. All right. Michael has sent in the hot emojis. Yes, indeed. Lewis, hopefully you saw that I covered those two areas of potential tropical development in the tropical Atlantic this week. And Paul, you stay cool as well. All right. So let's keep talking about the other aspects of this heat wave. It's going to start getting humid as early as tonight, slowly building. I mean, we're going to feel it tomorrow, right? I think it's going to be sticky and unpleasant maybe as early as tomorrow. But overall, the purple shadings that we really don't want to see in the region, 70 degrees or warmer, 70 degrees or moister, dew point levels, where it's muggy, gross, those luckily stay out of the region, hopefully until the end of the week, end of the weekend. But when you combine heat with the air temperature, the heat, humidity together, so the air temperature plus these dew points at or above 70 degrees, maybe by the end of the week, it could feel like 105. And just to cover what the heat index means, it's what it feels like to your skin, right? So the more humidity, the more moisture and heat in the atmosphere, the more difficult it is for a cooling mechanism. I'm pointing to my skin here the sweat evaporating from our skin is what cools us, and that mechanism, that natural mechanism for cooling our bodies, could be greatly hindered and almost shut down by the end of this week, end of the weekend. That's why we are talking about heat safety before this heat wave gets excessive, right? Gets maybe dangerous by the end of the week, end of the weekend. So, jobs, indoors, vehicles, outdoors, pets, your neighbors who might not have access to air conditioning, please check on them by the end of this week. This is going to be something where it doesn't cool down potentially overnight. That gets kind of dangerous when our bodies, our homes are not able to cool down and sleep and process some of the strain on our bodies. That gets dangerous by the end of this week, for sure, if not sooner. So we're thinking ahead about heat safety. Definition of a heat wave is 3 days of 90 or hotter in DC. This could be 6, 10 days. Not too sure of the duration. But we're calling it a prolonged heat wave. We are also using the term flash droughts because we could quickly get very dry and very hot this week and develop a very serious water deficit in our area. That really mainly is going to be agricultural for your gardens, for your crops. And we're also keeping a small eye on power usage, on grid strain, since so much of the United States may be feeling some of this heat wave by the end of this week. We're going to have a big pool of energy needed to keep all of us cool, all the population centers cool by the end of this week for sure. All right, I'm Cameron Walker for CapitalWeatherGang.com. Paul and Catherine, thanks for tuning in. Jessica, ROV, Fatima, Sweener, and Jared, and Spiny, and Preeti, thanks for tuning in on Instagram. Let's see, Deidre. Tropical developments shouldn't affect our region, but let's look at that really quick. We've got two areas from the National Hurricane Center that we're watching for the upcoming 7 days, potentially developing. In the red there in the southern Gulf of Mexico, the Bay of Campeche, and we do have the highest probability, over 60%, that develops in the next 7 days. And off the southeast coast, there's a low probability something may develop in the coming 7 days. With luck, maybe our hot, sticky, high pressure system between like Virginia and Bermuda could maybe grab some of that tropical moisture with southerly flow. It's not really a high confidence, is more of a wish list thing for all of us. But we'll watch that for you at capitalweathergang.com. So it's turning active, and Hurricane Center expected to be active, get active, stay active for much of the time until the closing of the season, November 30th in the tropical Atlantic. So thanks for being mindful of that, Deidre, and it's definitely going to have to become part of our summer weekly Sunday Sunset Live Q&A chats here at capitalweathergang.com on Instagram, Facebook, X, and YouTube. I'm Cameron Walker. Thanks so much for tuning in. On there, another 2 minutes or so. Crazy heat and humidity indeed, Mahia. We think it's maybe going to tie some records by the end of the week and the weekend. We're not with high confidence thinking it's going to set new records or break records at this time, but we're keeping a wary eye on things at the end of the week and to the weekend, and maybe even early next week. That's the problem. We don't know exactly when this might end. Hopefully, early to middle next week. So that's why we're calling it a prolonged heat wave. This is not just an everyday heat wave by minimum definition of 3 days of 90 degrees or hotter. It's looking like multiple days, many days. So. Indeed, Todd, use sunblock when you're at the pool. That's a great tip. And David, I wish tropical moisture would come in and give us a little rain, a little cooling. Would bring us a lot of humidity, but I think we would take that as an exchange with lower heat, even if we do have some higher sultry level humidity. All right, let us review really quick in the next minute that I'm on the air. Forecast at a glance directly above me. PM update is available at capitalweathergang.com there at the top. I wrote about pollen levels yesterday in the PM update for Saturday. Today I talked about the rainfall deficit, droughts, and how we might have flash drought. And it's a term where we're just thinking there could be a rapid onset very quickly. We turn to drought conditions this week with no rain at the baseline, already abnormally dry conditions, and then you have a huge gap with evapotranspiration needs and the high sun angle of the year. It's very strong, and the plants are thinking, hey, it's the middle of growing season. It's the highest evapotranspiration needs of the year because everything is green and growing. And there's going to be some strain. There's going to be some strain for our gardens and agriculture this week and farms as well. So, Ruth Lisa, thanks indeed. I agree with you. And David, until next week. And Matt, we are going to maybe, as far as, is this is well above average. By the end of the week, into the weekend, we could tie maybe some records in the record books. So yes, let's talk about humidity, Mahia, really quick. It's starting to filter in tonight, right? These temperatures and the heat tracker is going to be adding on many days of 90 degrees or hotter. So we start, getting to 90 or hotter probably tomorrow. And then maybe it's a streak of days, 90 or hotter until early next week. And then when you combine the dew points that are moving in, luckily staying out of the 70-degree or hotter category, that's muggy or gross until maybe the end of the week into the weekend. That's when heat index values, the combination of air temperature with humidity, making our skin, our bodies feel like 105. That could happen into this week, into the weekend. That gets a little more dangerous, into the dangerous territory. So muggy and gross potentially by the end of the week. And we want to avoid those purples, 70 or moisture dew point levels where it's very humid. And again, very limited rain chances this week, very sunny, contributing to the effects of this heat wave and to the potential of rapid onset droughts developing with already dry soils going into this heat wave this week. 7-day rainfall amounts are very limited. Unfortunately, I, of course, cannot rule out even tomorrow a stray shower storm, even around DC, mainly favored over the central Appalachians and Blue Ridge for Monday and Tuesday. But any passing stray shower or storm is very brief, very limited in impacts and providing water for our gardens and for our farms this week. So we're watching the abnormally dry conditions that kind of expanded over the region already ahead of this heat wave and the yellow shading above. 30-day deficit of rainfall far below 100% value levels of what we normally see over the last month. In the oranges and browns, almost everyone has a rainfall deficit. We are falling below what we normally see. So flash drought is possible along with our excessive heat by the end of the week, into the weekend. And numbers people look above, graphics people look below, just to kind of give you growing confidence for intensifying heat at the end of the week, end of the weekend. And maybe this goes into next work week. The Climate Prediction Center has a decent chance for above average temperatures next work week, leaning maybe below average, unfortunately, on precipitation for next work week as well. And even if we see two areas develop maybe the next 7 days from the National Hurricane Center, so far not a good chance, if any, we see any tropical moisture streaming in here. So please practice heat safety this week. I am over my time, but I'll see you next Sunday. Stay cool and hydrated. Follow Ruth Elisa's advice and sunscreen. Wear light colored clothing, lightweight clothing. Exercise early, very early in the morning if you can. That's the coolest time of day. Lots of hydration, mindfully hydrate. Don't forget about electrolytes this week as well. So more info at heat.gov and at capitalweathergating.com as we go through this week. I hope by the time you talk to me next Sunday for our weekly Sunday Sunset Chat, I will have better news with more seasonal conditions on the horizon by the time we talk next Sunday. But this is a very long heat wave, and we definitely should not be 90 or hotter this time of year. That waits until kind of the middle of July. That's the hottest time of year. So we're running ahead of schedule and could tie some records by the end of the week into the weekend. I'll get out of here and see you next Sunday. Please take care, and thanks for following us on Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, and X.